All right, let's dive into Leo Strauss and his incredible book, Natural Right in History. Strauss kicks things off with a pretty bold claim that we in the modern world are in the middle of a serious crisis. A crisis of meaning, really. One where we've somehow lost the confidence to know the difference between right and wrong.
And he doesn't ease into it. He just throws this quote right at you. It's designed to be shocking. Now, his point isn't that we're all about to become cannibals. What he's saying is that modern thinking has actually taken away our ability to argue against it. Think about it. If every culture's values are just relative, if there's no higher standard, then who are we to condemn any practice, no matter how awful it seems to us? And that really gets to the heart of the matter. Just the fact that we can ask that question, that we can step back and criticize our own society's beliefs, well, that suggests there's something inside us that's bigger than our own time and place. It hints that maybe we have to look for a standard that exists outside of our own customs. But what in the world would that standard be? To figure that out, Strauss says we need to take a step back in time. He argues that we've lost something fundamental that the ancient world totally understood, the idea of natural right. You can think of it as their moral compass, the thing that guided them in how to live and how to build a just society. So the whole idea of this classical compass is built on something called teleology. For thinkers like Plato and Aristotle, everything in the universe had a purpose, a natural goal it was aiming for. An acorn's purpose is to grow into a huge, strong oak tree. Well, they argued that a human being's purpose is to achieve perfection and virtue. So natural right was just the standard set by that purpose. It was a fixed true north that always pointed towards justice. The very beginning of philosophy was this revolutionary idea. Before that, good just meant the way we've always done things. It was good because it was our tradition. It was ancient. But then the first philosophers came along and asked this totally radical question. Okay, but is our tradition actually good? That shift from just accepting what's old to questioning what's natural and right in itself, that's the moment the whole search for natural right began. And this had huge implications for politics. For the classical thinkers, the whole point of society wasn't just to keep people safe or make them comfortable. The goal was to cultivate human excellence. Society was a project to help people reach their highest potential, to become virtuous. And yeah, this means it wasn't an egalitarian society. They believed that some people were just naturally better suited to lead, and the best possible ruler was the wisest person, the one who could see that true north of justice most clearly. But then, everything changed. There was this massive shift in thinking that didn't just tweak the old compass. It basically threw the whole thing away and built a new one from scratch, pointing to a completely different destination. This was the modern turn. And the architects of this new modern world were thinkers like Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. Over the course of about 100 years, they completely rewired political philosophy. They moved away from that classical search for the highest good and towards something they felt was much more practical and realistic. And this is the core of the change, right here. The classical world was all about our duties, what we owe to our community to become better people. The modern world is all about our rights, what we can claim for ourselves. And what's the most basic, most undeniable right of all? The right to stay alive. It's based not on some lofty idea of virtue, but on our most powerful, primal passion, the fear of a violent death. With this one shift, the whole ambition of politics just got smaller. The goal wasn't to make citizens into noble, virtuous people anymore. The new goal was what they called commodious living, basically a life of peace, security, and enough stuff to be comfortable. Becoming a good person, well, that was your own private business now. The government's job was just to protect your rights. According to Strauss, this whole modern project, even with all its success in creating peace and prosperity, had a terrible, unintended consequence. By getting rid of that classical standard, we were left with a compass that just spins and spins, pointing nowhere. We were left with the crisis of nihilism. And nihilism is really the final stop on this modern train of thought. It's that terrifying moment when you realize that if there's no natural standard for right and wrong, then all the things we care about most, justice, freedom, kindness, they don't have any more rational support than their opposites. They're just a blind choice that we, for whatever reason, happen to have made. So, how did we end up here? Well, modern thought basically split the world in two. It created this hard line between facts and values. The thinking goes like this. Reason and science can only deal with objective facts, stuff you can measure. But moral principles, like murder is wrong,
aren't facts. They're just our subjective preferences, our values. And if reason can't prove our values are true, then we're left with nothing but our own arbitrary choice. You can hear this all the time today, right? When people say, well, that's just your opinion. So what's the human price we pay for all this? The sociologist Max Weber, who Strauss studied very closely, gave this absolutely chilling description of modern life. In a world with no objective meaning, we either become cogs in a giant bureaucratic machine, specialists without spirit, or we become empty pleasure seekers, voluptuaries without heart. We lose the chance to live a truly full, meaningful human life. Okay, so is that it? Are we just doomed to live in this meaningless world? Well, for Strauss, the way out isn't some new political party or trying to turn back the clock. It's about returning to a very specific kind of mental work. And this is really important to get. Strauss is not selling a new ideology. He's not giving us easy answers. He says the real problem is that we've just stopped asking the big, important questions in a serious way. So the solution is to actually recover the real, authentic activity of doing philosophy. And the tool for this is something called dialectics. It's basically the art of a good, hard conversation, the kind Socrates was famous for. It starts with our everyday opinions. Like you might say, justice is giving everyone what they deserve. And then the dialectical process just starts poking at that idea. Okay, but what if someone deserves something terrible? Is it still justice to give it to them? And by working through those contradictions, you're forced to move from what you just believe to what you can actually know. It's a climb from opinion up towards truth. So the point isn't even necessarily to find one final answer we can all agree on and write down forever. The point is the activity itself, the serious, challenging, and deeply human search to understand what justice really is, what virtue is, and what it means to live a truly good life. For Strauss, just reopening those questions is the only real antidote we have to the nihilism of our time. And that brings us right back to where we started. After this whole trip through the certainties of the classical world and the doubts of the modern one, we're left with this massive question. Can a society just make up its own values and call it a day? Or does true justice need a standard that's bigger than us, a real true north for our moral compass? Strauss's work doesn't hand us the answer, but what it does is insist with everything it has that this is the most important question we could possibly ask.